right now, the man widely considered to be the toughest endurance athlete on Earth isn't running through some punishing desert landscape.
No, he's actually just sitting at a desk.
Exactly. He is sitting at a desk in British Columbia, Canada, writing out the exact same page of a paramedic textbook.
Let's say, like, page 69,
Yeah, page 69, over and over and over again until his hand physically cramps.
which just sounds like torture to most people.
It really does. But he has severe ADHD. His brain just does not retain information naturally by reading it.
Right, he can't just scan the page and absorb it.
Exactly. So he forces the knowledge into his head through the sheer agonizing friction of rewriting it until he gets a photographic memory of that single page.
It is such a striking image.
Oh,
And honestly, it completely shatters the illusion we tend to build around elite performers.
oh, for sure. We always want to think it's genetics.
Right. We like to believe people at the absolute peak of human endurance have some sort of genetic cheat code or, that they wake up just flooded with glowing motivation.
Like they're just built different.
Exactly. But looking at David Goggins sitting at that desk, you realize he isn't relying on natural talent.
And he certainly isn't relying on a life hack.
No. He is relying entirely on deliberate, manufactured friction.
Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we are analyzing a really phenomenal conversation between neuroscientist Dr. Andrew Huberman and retired Navy SEAL and ultramarathoner David Goggins.
And just to be clear, our mission here isn't to just talk about how tough he is.
Right, we're not just recounting a highlight reel of his craziest physical stunts. We are here to decode the actual neurobiology and psychology of extreme willpower.
We really want to look under the hood at the physical mechanics of the unbreakable mind.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yep.
Because going from the cognitive friction of writing out medical terms for hours
To the physical friction of running ultramarathons on broken knees.
yeah, that suggests there is a shared biological mechanism at play. There has to be a physical reason why doing things you absolutely dread actually expands your capacity to endure.
There is, and I mean, it represents one of the most significant shifts in modern neuroscience.
Really?
Yeah. In the source material, Dr. Huberman highlights a very specific physical structure in the brain called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex,
Or the AMCC.
right, the AMCC. For a long time, the scientific community sort of mapped the brain's functions into these neat little categories.
Like the amygdala for fear, that kind of thing?
Exactly. The prefrontal cortex for logic, the motor cortex for movement. But the AMCC acts as this critical hub connecting all of those areas.
Oh, wow.
It sits right at the intersection of your internal bodily sensations, your planning, and your physical actions.
Which is huge because that moves willpower out of the realm of like vague self-help philosophy.
Yes, into literal anatomy.
It's a piece of tissue you can actually measure.
Precisely. And the data they discuss regarding the AMCC is just staggering.
Yeah, the neuroimaging stuff is wild.
It really is. Neuroimaging shows that this specific brain area is visibly smaller in obese individuals.
But it changes, right?
It does. When those individuals begin a strict diet and actively resist the intense urge to overeat, the ANCC physically grows. It literally adds neural density.
That's incredible.
We also see that it is significantly larger in elite athletes. And it maintains a massive volume in superagers. People who live exceptionally long, highly functional lives.
So scientists aren't just calling it the willpower center anymore.
No, they are beginning to categorize it as the literal will to live.
But there is a massive trap here, which introduces a really uncomfortable paradox. It means you can't just work hard at things you're good at.
Exactly.
The growth of this brain structure is entirely dependent on the presence of dread. Huberman points this out with his own weightlifting.
Right, because he loves getting under a heavy squat bar.
Wait, so if I love doing heavy weightlifting and pushing to failure, that doesn't count.
I mean, from a neurological standpoint, no.
But it hurts. Pushing to failure is physically painful.
It is, yes. But because Huberman inherently loves the gym and the culture of lifting, his brain isn't actually experiencing cognitive friction. He's building physical muscle, sure, but neurologically, he's coasting. What's fascinating here is that the absolute prerequisite for the anterior mid-cingulate cortex to grow is that you must do something you do not want to do.
So the resistance is everything.
Yes. The resistance is the only thing that triggers the neuroplasticity. If there's no internal resistance, the brain does not signal the AMCC to recruit new neural pathways.
It's essentially neurological use it or lose it. If the AMCC is an engine, dread is the only acceptable fuel.
That's a great way to put it.
I mean, think about the massive trend of cold plunges right now.
Oh, yeah, perfect example.
The first time you get into a freezing ice bath, your autonomic nervous system just goes into shock. Your body is screaming at you to get out.
You literally feel like you're dying.
Right. You endure it, and your AMCC grows.
Yeah.
But if you do that every day for a month, your body adapts.
You get used to it.
Suddenly, you start looking forward to that refreshing dopamine hit. And the second that ice bath transitions from a source of dread to something you enjoy, you have run out of fuel.
Because the brain is ruthlessly efficient.
Exactly. It optimizes for energy conservation. So it immediately starts dismantling that extra willpower capacity because it just assumes you don't need it anymore.
That is the perfect analogy. The brain will not maintain expensive neural real estate unless it is absolutely forced to.
So you have to keep upping the stakes.
You do. And to illustrate just how powerful this structure is when it's forced into action, Huberman shares this remarkable detail about a neurosurgeon named Dr. Joe Parvizi.
Oh, the awake brain surgeries.
Yes, Parvizi conducted these awake brain surgeries where he used a small electrical probe to directly stimulate the AMCC in patients.
And because the patients were awake, they could report exactly what they were experiencing in real time.
Exactly. When the electrical current hit the AMCC, the patients universally reported an overwhelming feeling that an external threat was imminent.
Like a sense of doom.
They described it as feeling like a massive storm was coming. But importantly, it wasn't a feeling of panic.
That's the crazy part. It didn't trigger the flight response?
No, not at all.
Right.
Autonomic functions like heart rate increased, sure, but they felt a profound rising internal drive to push right through the storm. They felt mobilized to confront the friction.
That is an incredible mechanism, a literal switch in the brain that mobilizes the body to say, bring on the storm.
It's powerful.
But that brings up a severe logistical problem for everyday life.
How so?
Well, if the AMCC only runs on dread and you need constant severe discomfort to keep it engaged, how does someone continuously generate that dread without completely burning out?
That's the million-dollar question.
Human beings are naturally wired to seek comfort and economy of effort.
We are. To bypass that hardwiring, you have to fundamentally alter how you frame success and failure, which is where the psychological aspect of the source material really comes in.
The carrot and the stick.
It's exactly. Goggins manages to continuously fuel his AMCC by completely rejecting the carrot. He does not use rewards, finish lines, or external applause as his motivation.
He relies entirely on the stick.
Completely.
He actually describes himself as being actively haunted. He isn't running towards some shiny, successful future. He is running away from the 300-pound, deeply insecure kid he used to be.
The kid who lied to fit in, who was traumatized.
And functionally illiterate, yeah. He operates with this core belief that there is no finish line. The stick is always at his back, and if he stops introducing friction into his life, that past version of himself will catch up.
It's a relentless framework. And to sustain it, he has to manage a highly combative internal dialogue. He cannot afford to let his default instincts dictate his actions.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because he gives a vivid breakdown of exactly how he manages that dialogue during Navy SEAL Hell Week.
Oh, the ocean story.
Yeah. He is sitting in the freezing Pacific Ocean in February. The water is crashing over him. The physical toll is immense. And he says his default voice, the perfectly logical, rational voice in his head, is screaming at him.
Saying, get out of the water.
Exactly, telling him, you are freezing, you are nobody, just go home.
And realistically, that logical voice is the one 99% of us listen to. Because biologically, it makes sense to get out of the freezing water to survive.
Right. But Goggins realized he couldn't just mute or ignore that voice. It was way too loud.
You can't just shut it off.
No. Instead, he had to actively manufacture a second competing voice. A voice designed specifically to out-argue the logical voice right there in the surf.
Using his past as ammunition.
Yes, he had to bring up all his past suffering to prove to himself that he could survive this current suffering.
This connects beautifully to a clinical concept Huberman brings up, referencing the work of psychiatrist Dr. Paul Conti.
The supercomputer idea.
Right. Conti describes the human unconscious mind as a massive supercomputer. And within that supercomputer, we all have these dark cupboards.
Places we hide the bad stuff.
Exactly. When most people experience trauma, severe insecurity, or massive failure, they lock those memories away in those cupboards. They suppress them.
They close the doors, try to lose the key, and just focus on positive vibes.
Positive vibes only. But neurologically, suppression doesn't work the way we want it to.
The memories don't just disappear.
No, when you lock away trauma, your amygdala, your brain's fear center, remains highly reactive to those memories. They still control your baseline anxiety.
So they leak out anyway.
Yes. What Goggins does is the exact opposite. He essentially performs daily spring cleaning in those terrifying spiderweb-filled cupboards. By deliberately recalling his darkest moments, his past failures, and his deepest insecurities, he is essentially performing daily exposure therapy on himself.
He's manually overriding his own fear response.
Yes. He triggers the amygdala by recalling the trauma, but then uses his prefrontal cortex, and by extension, the AMC, to establish top-down regulation.
He uses the fact that he survived his dark past to fuel that second manufactured voice.
Exactly. And this raises an important question for you, the listener.
Now think about your own habits.
Yeah. How often do you rely on external praise to get through a difficult task? How often do you need the false dopamine hits of a supportive comment, a perfect playlist, or a tangible reward just to get started?
We basically just wait to feel motivated.
Which usually just means we are waiting for the task to feel easy or rewarding.
Right. But what would happen if, instead of waiting for external validation to provide the carrot, you started building your own internal medicine cabinet?
A mental cabinet stocked entirely with the objective evidence of past struggles you have already survived.
So when the friction hits, you don't look around for a cheerleader. You open that internal cabinet and say, hey, I survived this specific terrible thing 5 years ago.
I have the empirical data.
Exactly. I have the empirical data that I can survive this current lesser stressor right now. It becomes a completely self-contained ecosystem of resilience. You manufacture your own fuel.
Precisely. It shifts the locus of control entirely inward.
But logically, this inward system faces a massive threat eventually.
The success trap.
Yeah, we established that he uses his dark, painful past and the dread of being a nobody to fuel his actions. But Goggins won. He is a multimillionaire. He is globally famous.
His books have sold millions of copies.
Right. Success naturally eliminates dread. It eliminates friction. So if your brain literally requires you to be in the pain cave to maintain your willpower, how do you prevent your AMCC from shrinking when you live in a mansion?
That is the ultimate trap of achievement. Comfort is the natural byproduct of success, but it is the biological enemy of the AMCC.
It's like kryptonite.
It really is. Goggins is acutely aware that willpower is a highly perishable skill. You cannot build it and put it on a shelf. It atrophies.
It shrinks.
He realizes that if he accepts the comfort, if he just travels from stage to stage, collecting speaking fees and enjoying the applause, his neurological capacity to endure will rot.
Which perfectly explains a detail in the source material that initially seems entirely irrational.
The smoke jumping.
Yes. Every summer, Goggins willingly gives up millions of dollars in highly lucrative speaking fees. Instead of cashing in, he goes smoke jumping in places like British Columbia.
He parachutes out of planes into incredibly remote wildland fires to fight them by hand.
He deliberately leaves his wealthy, highly curated environment to be a grunt again.
He goes out into mosquito-infested, suffocating woods with terrible knees, carrying a heavy water pump, just breathing in thick smoke.
He artificially engineers this brutal, dangerous hardship solely to cap his success.
He essentially demotes himself to protect his brain. He refuses to let the AMCC realize he is safe and comfortable.
It makes biological sense, sure, but it creates a massive logistical problem for a normal human life.
Absolutely.
If you are constantly engineering friction and seeking out the pain cave, how can you possibly exist in a collaborative, compromising relationship? Huberman asked him directly how this intense, isolated lifestyle affects his family and partner.
And his answer is fascinating. It requires an incredibly rigid, almost shocking level of boundary setting.
He's very upfront about it.
Highly pragmatic. He provides everything his family needs up front: financial security, logistical support, his love and loyalty. But in exchange, he demands brutal, upfront honesty and absolute space to do his unseen work.
He actually tells people right from the start, I am not what you want in a man.
That's a bold thing to say.
It is. He makes it clear that there will be early mornings, late nights, and extended periods where he simply must be left entirely alone to suffer, because that suffering is the foundation of who he is.
We are deeply socially conditioned to soften our edges, to please others. Right. We compromise to maintain harmony.
We try to be agreeable.
But Goggins refuses to compromise the very neurological process that keeps him functioning. He recognizes that if he softens his routine to be more accommodating, he loses his edge, and that 300-pound ghost catches up to him.
There's a brilliant, slightly absurd moment in the source that highlights this dynamic. Because Goggins refuses to take days off, he jokes that his bulldog, Charlie, does all the resting and active recovery for him.
The dog just sleeps all day.
Yeah, effectively doing the relaxing that Goggins refuses to do. It's a funny image, but it really highlights the extreme division of labor in his life between endurance and comfort.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this insistence on engineering friction and rejecting comfort extends far beyond just physical exercise or studying.
It really shapes his whole worldview.
It fundamentally shapes how he processes information and views society as a whole.
Yes, and this is a crucial part of the conversation. The source material dives into his views on political and social groupthink.
And just to be completely clear for you listening,
Yeah.
we are neutrally reporting his cognitive strategy as outlined in the material.
Right. We are not endorsing any specific political ideology. We are looking at this strictly through the lens of cognitive friction.
Exactly. Goggins explicitly states that he refuses to align his identity with either Republicans or Democrats just because a political party dictates a certain set of beliefs.
He views partisan loyalty, where you just blindly agree with whatever your chosen side says, as a form of profound intellectual laziness.
Because following the crowd is the ultimate cognitive comfort.
Your brain loves consensus because it saves energy.
You don't have to evaluate complex issues, you just download the group's opinion.
Exactly. For Goggins, the grueling work isn't just physical. It is the hard, unpopular work of being a true individual.
Examining every issue yourself and risking the social alienation of disagreeing with your peers requires immense cognitive effort.
It's exhausting.
It is. Refusing a prepackaged tribal identity is a form of social friction. It stimulates the exact same neurological mechanisms as getting into an ice bath.
Standing alone requires a massive, well-developed AMCC.
So whether it's the physical pain of running on shattered knees, the mental pain of memorizing a textbook page by page, or the social pain of refusing to fit into a comfortable, safe political box, it is all the exact same pursuit.
It is all engineered dread designed to fuel the engine.
It's all the deliberate activation of the anterior mid-cingulate cortex.
Okay, let's pull all these threads together. We started with the visceral image of a man writing the same page of a textbook until his hand cramped.
We broke down the literal neuroscience of the AMCC.
The crucial brain hub that links sensation to action and that fundamentally requires doing what you hate in order to grow.
We explored the psychology of hunting the stick instead of the carrot.
Using the dark cupboards of past trauma to perform daily exposure therapy.
And we examined the danger of success, how comfort causes willpower to atrophy, requiring you to artificially engineer brutal friction.
Whether that is jumping into forest fires or standing entirely alone against societal groupthink. So what does this all mean? What is the practical takeaway for you listening right now?
It means that if you want to expand your capacity, you have to stop looking for ways to make things easier.
The ultimate goal isn't to find a smoother path. It is to systematically map your own AMCC.
Audit your daily routines and locate where the dread actually lives.
Because the friction you are actively avoiding right now isn't the obstacle. It is the literal fuel you need to build the neurological machinery of resilience.
And that leads to one final, deeply provocative concept from the source material that we haven't touched on yet.
Oh, this is a good one.
Throughout this conversation, we've focused heavily on enduring friction to achieve an end goal. But Goggins realized early on that the road to any meaningful achievement requires years of stagnation.
You will inevitably spend years failing, falling short, and being stuck.
Not just a bad weekend, but years where the needle does not move.
Just grinding with no results.
Exactly. And he realized that if you don't teach yourself how to fail properly, how to sit in the absolute misery and humiliation of failure without letting it destroy your core identity, you will never survive long enough to reach the victory.
You will quit just to escape the psychological pain.
We spend so much time in modern culture obsessing over visualizing success.
We are told to manifest the finish line and picture the gold medal.
But this raises an important question for you to ponder long after this deep dive ends. Instead of constantly visualizing your success, what if you spent a little time mastering the art of failing properly?
Wow.
What if you actively built the neurological capacity to sit in the dark cupboards, endure the storm without retreating, and just keep executing the reps, even when there is no reward in sight?
What if you simply picked up the pen, flipped back to page 69, and embraced the cramp in your hand?
That's where the growth actually happens.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Take a hard look at the manufactured friction in your own life today, and we'll see you next time.